Hey guys, talking stance and start for a wide receiver. We want to make sure that our wide receivers are in a good, comfortable position that they can hold for 10 to 30 seconds in between a play, and then also be able to accelerate fast off the ball so we can get downfield quick and efficiently. This wide receiver stance right here that I'm standing in is a good wide receiver position, okay? This is going to allow us to accelerate off the ball and drive ourselves down the field. The biggest pieces with this is that my back is at a tilt, okay? So this is the angle that we want to go. It matches up with my back heel, okay? So all of the power I'm going to generate out of my back heel and send forward is going in the same position as how I'm standing. And also my front leg is in a good bend position. So now as I press out of this foot to explode forward, we have some action potential in here that's going to allow us to generate a further step down the field. Okay, some common things I tend to see with wide receivers out of a stance is taller wide receivers you're going to see stand like this. Okay, they're going to stand very tall, but when they stand very tall like this, all right, there's not as much bend in this knee in terms of the front, so you're not going to be able to take as far of a step. And same thing with the back leg. When it's very straight like this, the first thing that they're going to do to try and get more comfortable is they're actually going to sit down into this position to then roll forward and get out of this stance. So we want to make sure that our taller receivers still have a slight knee bend. Now they don't have to be as low as me in this last position, but you still want to see them a little bit lower than what this is. So make sure that they have somewhat of a knee bend in their back knee, because no matter what to go forward, they can't just calf raise and press out of this. They have to be able to push off that back leg out of their calf and then be able to use that to drive forward. So we're going to want to have them have a knee bend in the back knee. The other mistake that I typically see is, and you're going to usually see this out of slot receivers, is they're going to stand something like this. It's basically a low lunge. The problem with the low lunge is you have these great angles with your legs, but they're the wrong angles for us trying to accelerate down the field. Okay, there's a reason we don't see a 40-yard dash out of this start. All right, you wouldn't see anyone running track to be standing like this. It's a powerful position for your legs, but it's not a speed position for our legs. So you want them to stand up a little higher, because if you watch me here, just to get out of this position, to get more comfortable, I actually stand up and I go into the wide receiver stance. So if you had a wide receiver standing like this and they wanted to accelerate down the field, literally the first thing they're going to do is they're going to press up and then go forward once their legs are at a better position here. Now they can go forward. So for any coaches that are out there, a couple of things you want to look for. Once again, you want to make sure that they're balanced. All right, you want to make sure that they have a good knee bend in both of their legs. I would really focus on having a slight tilt forward in this front knee, but then in the back leg, you want to make sure that it's going to be equal to what their back is. Okay, we want to make sure that they're angled at the same rate so that they can go and work together to push off the field, or push from the turf in the field to push out. And you want to make sure that the chest is over that front knee, and they should be able to look down with their eyes and see the tops of their toes. That would be a good position for these wide receivers to be in, regardless of if they're outside receivers or slot receivers. Everyone's going to be slightly different, so you might have some guys standing a little taller than me, you might have some guys a little shorter than me, or sitting down a little bit further. That's okay. All right, and same thing with the feet. My feet are a little bit more spread out. I'm 6'2", so I'm a little bit taller. And you might see a taller guy have a shorter, smaller stance, and you might see a shorter guy having a wider stance. Make sure that they're comfortable, but then make sure that you're hitting some of these key points. Okay, and then a couple of the things I like to do out of this to see if they have a good acceleration position and they can get off the ball and they're comfortable in their stance is, number one, I'll have them start out by walking into this stance. So I typically will have my wide receivers walk into this stance, so they'll start and then they just take one or two steps and then get right down into the stance. Okay, so if they do that, if you have your wide receivers do that, and they start falling over or rolling forward or leaning, they're not comfortable. So for me, right here, if you watch that again, you can see in 2 steps, I'll play at full speed. Okay, I can just walk into this position and sit here, and now I hold myself. So if you want to work with your wide receivers, make sure that they can walk into that position and be comfortable and stand there for 10, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds so that they're not moving. All right, the other thing I like to do is where we have this line here, I like to set my wide receivers about a yard away from this line. So if my wide receivers are a yard away from this line, I'd always press them to make sure that this first foot is able to at least reach this line or get over it. We want to make sure that these guys are taking the good first step to get over it. We don't want to see this where we kind of take a half of a step. So if they're taking a half of a step, either it's bad form once they're coming out, or it's because they're in not a great stance for themselves. So that's just another drill I like to do to just make sure that they're driving off the ball, they're not standing up, and we're getting some good distance as we take off. So just that's the basics, guys, to me, of a stance and start for a wide receiver, and a couple of things you can auto correct. And a few of these other videos are going to go into some of the releases, but just basic overview of stance and start. Comments or questions, please post them below.